And now we'll just have that brief delay that Facebook is so famous for before we go greet our mighty mystery fam, our friends who are so excited to hear from you today.
Yay.
And we are live. Welcome, mighty mystery fans, friends, and family. I'm your on-air host, Sarah DeVello, and I am absolutely thrilled to host the incredible New York Times bestselling author, Lisa Unger, on the eve of her pub day tomorrow when Confessions on the 745 comes out. Lisa, welcome to Mighty Mystery. Tell us about your book.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you for having me. You're so wonderful. So yeah, Confessions on, of course I have a copy right here. What author would not have a copy right next to her? Yeah, so Confessions on the 745, when it opens, we meet Selena Murphy. And she is a young mom and she's had a really bad day. And so, of course, you know, when she gets on her commuter train home, it dies on the tracks. And so she's sitting there in the dark and there's a woman sitting next to her and this stranger strikes up a conversation with a confession. And so I don't know, maybe it's the dark of the train, or maybe it's the drink that she shouldn't have had, or the horrible day she's had. But Selena winds up sharing a dark secret of her own, something that she's never told anyone. And then the train comes back to life and she's headed back into her world and she's embarrassed. She thinks, why did I do that? Why would I ever share something so dark and secret with somebody that I had never met before? And she hopes that she's never going to see the stranger from the train ever again. But of course she will.
Oh my gosh. Well, you are a master of suspense, the master of the twisty plot. And from that very first scene, I was immediately hooked in for all of the reasons that you list, and a few which we'll leave out, no spoilers here. But we've all had that moment, right, where you're traveling and you meet someone and they tell you something crazy, or you tell them something crazy, in the intimacy of knowing that you're never going to see this person again. People have told me some really crazy things on buses, on trains, on airplanes. So from that scene, I was immediately hooked in. And there is something about that, like you said, that, you know, that magnetic moment where you're like, you know, you can just be free to share, thinking you'll never see that person again. Of course, poor Selena isn't to be so lucky. But you draw us in from that very first moment. And I have so many, I want to welcome everyone who's watching on Facebook. If you've been here before, you know the drill. And if you're new, here's the drill and welcome. This is your time with the incredible Lisa Unger. And this is your chance to ask her anything you want to ask her about her writing process, her incredible body of work, how she does what she does, her adorable dog, Jack, anything that's weighing on your mind. This is your time with Lisa. Just go ahead and type those questions in the comment box and I will get them over to you and she's going to answer them for you today. That's what we're all about here on A Mighty Mystery. Now, I know it always takes me a minute to think of my questions. So while you're thinking, Gail, one of our top community members, is saying it, but it isn't Tuesday. Gail, you're so right. We save Mondays for the big celebrities, and that's why we're thrilled to do Celebrity Edition with the incredible Lisa Unger today. So let us know where you're watching from and what questions you have for Lisa. And again, it takes a minute to type. So while you're thinking, while you're typing, I have got to share just a few of the incredible rave reviews that Lisa is getting. So Lisa earned a starred review from Publishers Weekly and Booklist for Confessions, Publishers Weekly raving diabolically clever, an exquisitely crafted psychological thriller. Exquisitely crafted is the word. This book is amazing. I was lucky to get an advance copy, and you guys have got to buy it today through our very special partnership with bookshop.org, and it will ship to you tomorrow when the book drops in the US. Booklist also awarded this a starred review, raving absorbing, reminiscent of Strangers on a Train and The Grifters. Unger's novel provides a masterclass in plotting indeed, and we are here for it. The New York Times Book Review has said this Unger writes crime fiction like you've never seen before. Brilliant. And I could not agree more. Lisa Unger, you are absolutely incredible. The author of 18 best-selling novels published in 26 languages with millions of readers who love you worldwide.
Thank you.
We have so many questions pouring in. So tell us, how do you do this? How do you write an exquisitely crafted psychological thriller? How do you write a book that earns the praise a master class in plotting? Give us the 411.
I I don't know. I mean, I think if I sat down at my desk and was like, okay, let me sit down and write a diabolically clever master class in suspense, I would probably just be completely stymied. So I would probably like sit terrified at my keyboard. But honestly, for me, every book starts with a germ, like some kind of an idea. And then that thought or idea, or it could be anything like a news story or a line of poetry or a photograph, it leads me to kind of a swath of research. And then the best way I can describe it is if it connects me with something that else that's going on, connects with something else that's going on within me, then I start to hear a voice or voices. And I follow those voices through my manuscript. And, when I sit down to write, I don't know who's going to show up. I don't know what they're going to do. I'm not 100% sure what the book is about. And I definitely don't know how it's going to end. So I feel like in many ways, like the story is there and I just have to find it. And so that's how I have approached the writing of every single novel. I am positive that there's an easier way to do it. Because there are a lot of 3 a.m. wake ups. I'll tell you that. Like I often dream about my work, and narrative problems get worked out while I'm sleeping, while I'm on the treadmill, and then I have these moments where I'm like, oh, that's it, and then I'm back to the keyboard. So I'm sure there's an easier way to do it, but this is how I've done every single novel, and I'm not sure I could do it any other way. So for me, it's really just about sitting down, setting my intention. I write as early as possible in the morning. I write before I do anything else non-creative. And, I just listen to that, to those character voices. And, I sit down with the idea that today I can be a better writer than I was yesterday. And that is what drives me through every single day and every single novel.
Oh, Lisa.
So that's the short answer. It's just that easy.
It's just that easy. Just open a vein and bleed on the page.
Exactly.
Devote your life and your sleep and your every waking moment and your every sleeping moment to your craft. Yes. And you too can do this.
Exactly. That's all there is to it.
Well, I want to get into every single part of what you said, because what you said is so fascinating in so many ways. So let's get into the meat of it. So first of all, I take this, you're not a plotter, you're a pantser.
Well, I don't like the word pantser, because it has an implication that I think like is not exactly the truth of it. I prefer more the idea of a gardener. This is something that George R.R. Martin talked about, and I've talked about it with some of my author talks pals on Twitter. This idea that there's the plotter, the person who sits down and plots out every single thing, and then there's the gardener who basically plants the seed and allows the story to grow organically. And so that's more the way I see it. I mean, because I think at the end of the day, I don't think the two processes are very different after all. It just maybe takes the gardener longer, and you write the novel while you're plotting it, as opposed to the plotter who creates a scaffolding and works within that scaffolding. And I know that throughout the industry, and every author that I have met, kind of usually falls into one of those two camps. And I'm not sure you get to choose it, right? And I'm not sure that in both, sort of ways, you see super successful people in both camps of how to write. So I'm not sure that, there's a right or a wrong way to do it. But, gardeners tend to be very like sort of, accepting of plotters, but plotters don't necessarily always seem very accepting of gardeners. I I've noticed, I've heard this, but
Two have noticed that.
I have noticed that. But I
Hmm.
think it's okay. However you write, I think that is the right way for you.
That's because you're a gardener.
Exactly.
If you were a plotter, you might be throwing some shade at us gardeners. So
Exactly.
I think I could barely contain my girlish glee because as a gardener, as an urban gardener, this resonates with me. I feel this on a deep visceral level. This makes
Mm.
sense to me.
Yeah.
And so first of all, I also never loved the term pantser because who wants to go around pulling someone's pants down? Not
Right.
me. And so I never really loved that term, but gardener resonates, because who doesn't want to be a gardener, cultivating and growing and
Right.
tending these seeds and bringing them to fruition through their TLC, their tender, loving care. Also, it just makes sense. You plant the seed, you watch it grow. I get that in a way that I never really got the pantsing. So you
Yeah.
have just blown my mind, Lisa Unger, and someone and Gail is saying, "Aha!" So you're blowing the minds of people in the
Having
audience too.
everyone's having an aha moment. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really kind of, I mean, the pantser idea implies that, you're flying by the seat of your pants, that you don't know what you're doing. And that is so not the case. I have written, 18 novels. I've been writing since I was a kid. I'm like a lifelong lover of story. My entire education is focused on, writing and the novel. And everything that I have done in my life has been in service of this craft. So I do, in fact, know what I'm doing. I just, I didn't accidentally write 18 novels just by sheer, seat of my pants luck. I have a craft that I've honed and worked on for, as long as I have been able to hold a pen in my hand. So the whole pantser thing definitely is like a little bit like, yeah, I don't think you're quite getting it, because the gardening idea is that the seed is planted and then you are present for that every single day, watering, pruning, watching it grow, directing the shoots, all of the stuff. It's a any kind of gardening requires a certain amount of presence, and that's how I feel about my fiction.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And it's so true. And I also love that it allows space for the organic
Right.
nature of writing,
Yes.
of that magic of not adhering to an unyielding, structure of, you know,
Yeah.
of whatever. It's sort of letting that organic nature of being in the flow.
Yeah.
So does it flow places unexpectedly for you? Is it a faith-led process for you? How do you balance following that and being in the flow versus, making sure that you're keeping the story going, you're adhering to a narrative arc, you're working in all of the tension points? How do you do all that?
Well, I mean, it is an organic process. I mean, I like that, that idea of it. And so with all organic process, there's an ebb and there's a flow, right? So there are times when, there are days when you can't stop the pages from flowing. And then there are days where you just kind of, spend some time at your computer going, okay, yeah. What's going to happen here? And you have to have faith. It is an act of faith, but again, it's a faith in your craft and in your ability. It's not a faith in some like sort of like that some magical force is going to, sort of help you to write your book. It's a faith that, you do know the form of the novel. And so I'm not one of the, like, there are some people that have very strict word counts and they're going to write that word count no matter what. I'm more like, I'm going to be at my desk first thing as early as I can be, hopefully before my family wakes up, and I'm going to have several big creative blocks throughout the day, and that's how I'm going to, write my book over the course of 9 to 12 months. And so there are days when it's a flow and there are days when it's an ebb. And, I think that in some sense, because I've been reading since I was a kid, I have in many ways internalized the form of the novel. It's just the way my brain works. It's just the construction of a story. The novel is my form. short story as well, but the novel is my form, and I tend to the stories tend to evolve. So by the time in a very sort of understandable way for me. And so I definitely get to the end of that first draft in, in 9 to 12 months. And then I try to put it away for a while, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, and then go back to it and start reading from page one. So that first draft is, that's me. That's the story. That's what I wanted. That's the story I wanted to tell. And then the second draft starts to be about the readers. Did it work? Did I bring my reader along on this journey? So there'll be maybe 2 or 3 drafts before I ever turn it in to my editor. And then, of course, there's another draft from there. So the writing of the story is an organic, ebb and flow, a process that takes a certain amount of time. And then in the editorial phases, that's when I start applying my intellect and what I know about the craft and the genre, and sort of ask myself important questions, like things like, okay, for every scene, does this scene advance plot or character, or hopefully both? So there are certain questions like that that are asked in the editorial process that I'm definitely not asking in the first draft process.
Oh, wow. Okay. So those 2 stages are so different for you. This is so interesting. I just want to say hi to everyone on Facebook. Judy Ginsburg, Sintimer, is saying saying hello. She's watching from St. Pete, your fellow St.
Oh,
Peter.
nice. Hi, St. Pete.
Sharon Carlson Person says, I love capitals. Your books, Lisa. Yay, Sharon, tell us which ones are your favorite and get your copy of the brand new one, which drops tomorrow. You're going to love it. But yeah, those stages are so different for you. So the first one, you just write for yourself. And then the second one, you're going back and you're asking all those questions about, as Publishers Weekly and Booklist were saying, master plotter. So is that when in that second stage, that's when you're thinking of the plot?
No. It's not to say that the first draft is a free for all. I mean, again, I in many ways, the process or the is something that I know well. That when I get to the end of that first draft, I'm usually.
I think we might be having a technical issue. That's okay. This happens during the pandemic. Wi-Fi is overloaded. Let's see if Lisa unfreezes. Okay, you know what's crazy, Mighty Mystery fans? This happened to us last time Lisa was on, and she's back. She's back. So this is this is life in the time of the pandemic. Lisa, you're back. Yay! Okay, Lisa's gonna unmute, and we're gonna get right back into it. Lisa, I was just saying. Oh wait, you have to unmute down there at the bottom corner. Oh, I can see. You're back.
Oh my gosh, I'm back. Yeah, and I was just yelling at my husband, the internet's down. But I think it's okay.
Life in the time of the pandemic, right? So you were saying it's not just a free-for-all in that first draft.
Oh no, I don't mean to imply that. It's very difficult to even discuss this part of the process because it's so sort of endemic to who I am and how I think about things. So, there's always the kind of the awareness, when I, every day starts with me reading what I wrote the day before. And so there's a, sort of a hook back into the story. And every time I'm reading something, I'm always rewriting it. So there's a lot of sort of inherent editing that happens throughout the writing of the novel as well.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's so interesting. Thank you for giving us this inside glimpse into your process. Alan says, I love your bookshelves and your Wonder Woman poster. In addition to your pearls of wisdom about writing, of course. Alan, good eyes on that Wonder Woman poster. And I too was admiring your gorgeous bookshelves.
Thank you.
With your brilliance. Sharon Wilson Speed saying, I heard this book is awesome. I can't wait to read it. Sharon, you are going to love it. I got an advance copy and girl, you are in for a treat. And you can buy it through our link through bookshop.org today and support our beloved independent bookstores. So we'll be posting that link in the comments as well. And everyone, tell us what your questions are for Lisa. This is your time to ask her anything that you want, and I will share them with you. From the Thriller, Suspense, and Mystery Readers Group, Becky Braun Rhodes is asking, what motivates you to write these awesome books? She has a two-part question, actually, and says, is your subject matter totally imagination, or is it, quote, ripped from the headlines? Thank you for all of your books. I love them.
Thank you. Well, I think, it's never just one thing. I mean, it's not like just from my imagination, and most things are not necessarily, in my case, like sort of ripped from the headlines. Although, that initial germ, that initial sort of, seed for the book, it could very well come from a news story. In the case of In the Blood, it was something that I read in the New York Times Magazine. In the case of Beautiful Lies, it was a piece of junk mail. In the case of Confessions on the 745, it was like a piece from research that I had been doing on another novel. In the case of, Under My Skin, it was a Jungian idea that had been kicking around in my head for a while. So it's always something from the world. Die for You is because I was in Prague at the time when I started thinking about that story. So it's always either from travel or from, experience, or for something that I'm reading or learning about. That's usually where the idea comes from. And then from that point forward, my imagination will take over. And that's how the story unfolds. So it's kind of a union of real world stuff and things that I'm imagining and thinking about.
Wow. Okay, wait, I think we all need to know, what was the other book that you were working on when you came across this piece of research which inspired this other one?
Oh, so I was this would have been for the strange. I started with The Stranger Inside. So
Okay.
and then but to be okay, so about Confessions, there was a piece that an idea that I had in my head for a long time that I don't even know where it came from. It was this idea that I had heard somewhere, that you can't con an honest man.
Ooh, yes, and that is a line that crops up again and again in this book.
It has kind of the ring of truth to it, but to me, it's too simple, right? It's too, nothing in life or in human nature and the human psyche is ever simple. Like, no, there's no black or white as I see it. So it got me to doing some research about the psychology of the con artist and the psychology of the conned. Yes. And so I started reading a book by a writer named Maria Konnikova, and her book was The Confidence Game.
I've heard of that. I have not read of it.
Yeah, and it's super interesting, and she basically dives in deep to, famous con artists, their scams, the psychology, the people who fall for scams, and her basic premise is that for the whole book is that most people think that they're way too smart to ever be conned or scammed, but nobody is. Everybody is vulnerable to a good con artist, because the con artist, a really talented one, will know what you want before you even know what that thing is. And so my thinking about that idea evolved. It's not that you can't con an honest man. It's that you can't con someone who doesn't want something. And everybody wants something.
Wow. I'm getting chills because there's a very powerful scene in your book where one of the characters, and I won't say who, basically works her way through what you just shared.
Right.
And it really made me think, first of all, it made me scared because I thought, yikes, have I ever met one of these people? Will I ever meet one of these people? And, and these watchers who are sort of watching and sensing what it is that people want, and then becoming that, transforming themselves into that. But, and I think the way that you set up the con, and the way that you, in the book, the way the character sets up the con, the way that she thinks about the con and speaks about the con and becomes that, is so fascinating. What I thought was also really fascinating was the sort of subtle winks that you also gave us about the people in the book who aren't the official con artists, but who may be a little bit dishonest in terms of, for instance, what they put on social media. So there's someone else in the book who is maybe the victim, let's say, of
It's so hard to talk about all of it.
But yet she herself is not being fully honest, as many of us aren't, only putting, for instance, the highlight reel out on social media, having a great day, beautiful day with my family or whatever. It's so, and so I thought the way that you did that was really fascinating.
Yep, that was definitely something. I mean, and this come up again and again, I think, especially recently in the work. The idea that these kind of curated versions of our lives that we're posting on social media, and how it's actually one of the book group discussion questions, is that, how many people are doing this? They're just posting these really curated versions of their lives, and then what's going on beneath the surface is usually very different indeed, because life is lived between your social media posts, right? What you've managed, what you've had the wherewithal to sit down and crop and filter and edit and write out your little caption and all that. That took some work, right? That took some real intention,
Yes.
to put that little piece of yourself out there, like it's something that you wanted people to see. And
Yes.
so I think that, in some sense it is a little bit of a con. It's a con in which we're sort of all complicit, because we're all using social media in this way. And which is not to say that every single feed is inauthentic or whatever, but I'm just saying that it can be, and that there can be so many more layers, and that, beneath the surface of everybody's lives. And that as long as we're sort of doing this, like, what is the impact that we're having on each other? Like, where you're feeling like, oh my God, I overslept, my hair's a mess, the dog threw up on the carpet, like whatever it is. It's like you get on social media and like there's your friend and she's like, doing yoga at sunrise, or, on some mountaintop somewhere, and you're like, oh my God, but who knows whether her dog was just throwing up,
Right.
15 minutes before, or she was crying because for whatever reason. Like, this is these are the things that I'm fascinated with, and what I tend to explore in the fiction. It's, I'm not so like I'm interested in the surface, only because I want to know what's underneath, right? That's really where I want to go. And so that comes across in the technology piece in this book, but it might be any other novel, sort of exploring whatever layers of existence, perception, whatever.
Oh, yes. I love that. And I love the way that you said, I want to explore what's beneath. That's, yes, you and me both. I love that. Sharon wants to know, do you pick your own titles? So tell us the story of this title, and tell us about, do you get to pick your own titles? How does that work?
So I've had like no end of title drama in my career. So I think the only way it works is this: if I love a title, my editor is going to hate it. That's just the bottom line. If I hate a title, it's going to be the title for the book. Like, if I just put like So Beautiful Lies, for example, I did not love that title.
Okay.
It was just kind of a holder title. It was like I lived with it for a long time and I just didn't have another title. But that was the title that they wanted for the book. I was like, okay. And for The Stranger Inside, my original title for that book was The Night Jar. And the night jar is a hawk that hunts at night. And my editor was like, no, nobody wants that title. I was like, but what? She's like, nobody knows what a nightjar is. I was like, I know, that's the point. It's intriguing. She's like, no, it's not. I'm like, okay. And so we can't. And so then what will happen at that point is there'll be like a long list. I'll have a list, she'll have a list. We go back and forth until somebody or both people go, oh, I love this one. But for Confessions on the 745, I'll hold it up too.
Hold it up.
All kudos and all credit has to go to my editor, because that was her title. That's what she came up with, and it's it's a fantastic title. It's probably one of my favorites. So all hats off to Erica, my fantastic editor at Park Row.
Wow. Okay, Mighty Mystery fans, you heard it here first. You heard it here first. Sharon saying, I guess you just have to hate the title then. LOL.
Yeah, it's such a complicated piece of the puzzle, you know what I mean? Because it really does sort of fall into, it falls into into marketing, right? I mean, that the title makes so much,
Right.
it has such an impact. And so, you really do, I mean, it's your book, and if I felt passionately about a title and I went to the mat for it, I'm sure that I would, get my title. But the truth of publishing is that this is a very collaborative process.
Mm.
Trust people to know, you trust marketing and sales to know, to know the marketplace and to know what works. And so you really, I mean, I personally do listen to them and to their thoughts and ideas, because especially at Park Row, I mean, they're just so talented. So I, have a tremendous amount of faith. So I always try to work with them and would, in any way I can.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And thank you for this, illuminating glimpse. Thanks for giving us the inside scoop here, Lisa. That's what we live for. Gail, hearkening back to the junk mail, she says, so junk mail does have a value then, haha. So tell us about the piece of junk mail that you got that inspired a book.
Yeah, so this was early in my career. I was writing for St. Martin's at the time. They published my first 4 novels, and I was in between the third and fourth book in my very first series, which featured around a true crime writer by the name of Lydia Strong. And so I had finished my third book and was about to begin my fourth novel, or was like sort of somewhere there. And this is actually before I had my daughter, when I could actually imagine writing a book in between other books. So I went out to the mailbox, and there was one of those blue and white flyers. We've all seen them. There's like an ad on one side, and then on the other side, there's the age graduated photograph of a missing person. Yeah. And I saw this, and I had this thought, what if I looked at this and recognized myself?
Ooh.
And then and that was the seed for Beautiful Lives.
Wow. So literally you went to the mailbox, you got this flyer, and you had this thought. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. It's so cool. Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We have our next question from Judy Kodama. This one from Thriller, Suspense, and Mystery Readers Group. She would like to know what you are reading. Ooh, Julia, good question. Thank you.
So I'm always reading. I am like I'm just usually have about 3 or 4 books going.
Me too.
At one time. I'm just kind of I just kind of move through and eventually finish all of them and start another one. Right now I'm reading The Biggest Bluff, also by Maria Konnikova. She wrote the Confidence Game. And when I was talking to Jilly McMillan, who's another one of my favorite authors, I just finished her book, which was a fantastic thriller, to tell you the truth, which is just out now. So that's another one that I was reading. When I talked to her online, we had talked about The Confidence Game, and she mentioned The Biggest Bluff, and she had said, you are just going to devour it. And I totally am devouring it. It's about her, she was she's a writer, a journalist, and she basically wanted to understand the world of high stakes professional poker.
Yes. Oh my God, I just read about this book. Okay, yes. Yeah.
And so she basically turns herself into a poker player.
Yes.
Like a very successful, professional poker player. And it's all about the psychology of the game, mastering yourself, the difference between, skill and luck, and how much each of those factors play into sort of everything in your life, like the things you control and the things that you don't, and all that. And it's just, for me, it's one of my favorite kinds of nonfiction books, because it's, it's super entertaining, but it's also, provides a lot of really deep and insightful information about the psyche and psychology in this very like sort of gripping framework. So that's what I'm currently obsessed with.
So can we expect something in the poker world coming forth from you at some point, Lisa?
I have no idea. I never know that.
Right, exactly.
Until things turn up on the page, I don't know. I don't even know how they're going to manifest themselves in the work.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Sharon saying this is very freaky. She has goosebumps. I think she's talking about the wanted, the missing person poster.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that Sharon, I totally agree. That was very freaky. I also got chills and goosebumps. Oh my gosh. Well, we have just a few moments left with Lisa before she's going on to her next interview. So if you have any last questions, just go ahead and drop them. I'm just scrolling through, make sure I don't miss anything. Just go ahead and drop them in the box. Lisa, it has been just absolutely incredible to host you. We are so honored to have you here on A Mighty Mystery Celebrity Edition. Again, everybody, this book drops tomorrow, Confessions on the 745. You can get it through our special partnership with bookshop.org, which supports independent bookstores, receiving starred reviews, earning starred reviews from Booklist and Publishers Weekly, earning absolutely incredible praise. Just absolutely amazing to read this. Again, Publishers Weekly calling it diabolically clever. I could not agree more. And the word diabolically is so great. Gail is saying thank you. Gail, you're so welcome. Great to have you. Booklist saying this is absorbing. Unger's novel provides a masterclass in plotting because it is so twisty. My God. New York Times Book Review raving about your body of work, that you write crime fiction like we have never seen before. Brilliant. Could not agree more. I also want to tell everyone, Lisa received two Edgar Award nominations in 2019, and that is an honor held by only a few writers, including Agatha Christie. My God, Lisa, you are so incredibly gifted, so incredibly talented, so incredibly smart. I just want to remind everyone, this woman received 2 Edgar Award nominations last year, an honor held by only a handful of people, including the freaking legendary Agatha Christie. So we have been absolutely just so honored and so thrilled to have you here. And I just want to wrap with one last question, saying, can you tell us your tips for aspiring writers?
Yeah, so I'll say the same thing I always say to inspiring writers or aspiring writers, is that there's a couple things. First of all, no matter who you're looking at that's further down the road from you, somebody who's just published or somebody who's published a few books or a best-selling novelist or an award-winning novelist, no matter who you're looking at one point, that person was a writer sitting alone in a room at her keyboard, wondering if she was good enough. So no matter who you're looking at and comparing yourself to, they were all exactly where you are right now. The other thing is that no matter where you are in your career as a writer, it never stops being about the page. It never stops being about the writing. And I think a lot of aspiring writers think to the, the contract, like the big book publishing contract, that it's going to be a windfall, that it's an end to something. But if you're lucky, all it is an open doorway to the writing life. And once you walk through that doorway, it is always and forever about getting better at your craft. It never stops being about that. Nobody ever came to your work and stayed because you were a great self-promoter. They come to your work and they stay because you gave them a book that meant something to them, characters that moved them, a story that transported them. They came to you and they stayed with you because you are a good writer, not because you're a good publicist. And so don't ever forget that it begins and ends with the page.
Oh, Lisa Unger, you were getting so many hearts up over on Facebook. Judy, as a therapist, is giving you lots of hearts. So I know this is fascinating.
I like it when the therapists are happy.
If you're getting hearts from a career therapist, you know this is great. And I know I got goosebumps because the truth and the authenticity and the realness of that. Gail Rosenfeld saying life lessons here. Yes, ma'am. We feel that. We feel your truth. We feel your authenticity, and we feel that authentic, heartfelt, heart open space from which you're speaking to all of us. So again, just the hearts are coming up so much on Facebook. The incredible Lisa Unger, thank you so much for joining us here on A Mighty Blaze Mighty Mystery Celebrity Edition. We have been truly grateful and blessed to have you with us today, and we are so excited to read Confessions on the 745. Congratulations.
Thank you. I hope you love it, and thanks for having me on. You're fantastic, Sarah. You're a great interviewer. I just love spending time with you. Thank you.
Oh, Lisa, I think you are absolutely incredible, and I am so blessed to host you. So thank you so much, and I can't wait to have you back next time.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.